Moi, under his dictatorship, never broke a law.
This cannot always be our reality. We can't keep coming to protest and be met with violence. It can't keep on happening. And then when I go online today, I see a tweet saying, seriously guys, how could we better mobilize to be more impactful? So I realize I'm not the only one feeling exhausted and tired and feeling like there has to be more to this.
Raila has posed as the guarantor of reforms, but he has never delivered. The Gen Z have demonstrated that they are actually now our guarantors, not the military, but Gen Z are the guarantors. If we will not implement by June, by September, by October, what we have agreed is going to be done, we know who is going to enforce the implementation of the agreement.
We know Gen Zs can occupy.
They will occupy for sure, and this time constitutionally and legitimately.
Yeah. Welcome to Politikali Konekted, a podcast on everything politics and governance in Kenya and Africa. Here, we unpack the complexities of people, policy, and power. I'm your host, Diana Ngao,
AKA Madam Speaker. And yours truly, Kidimwaga,
aka The Rock.
Today, we have the good fortune of hosting one of the finest brains this country has ever witnessed. A servant of the people, a man who has done so much in helping this country align itself with its highest ideals. A man we cannot attempt to introduce or to describe. I want to grant him this opportunity to tell us whom he is. Karibu mtumishi Cyprian Nyamwamu.
Karibu sana.
Thank you very much. I am Cyprian Orina Nyamwamu. I am mtumishi. That is the by name that I go by, and I am the executive director of the Future of Kenya Foundation, which is a policy and governance think tank. But I also convene the Kenya Bora Political Citizens Union. And I just turned 49, and we are committed to not just liberating Nairobi, but we are committed to Kenya Bora Political, because Kenya is the gateway to Africa's liberation. So we are situated at a time in history where we as Kenyans can actually provide the keys to Africa's liberation. And I'm very, very happy that I'm part of that struggle and a part of that vision.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Wow, I like what you say, that Kenya is the key for Africa's liberation. So maybe before we get into the episode, you can now tell us, we always have one question at Politikali Connected, which is, when was the first memory of political consciousness for you? At what point in Kenya's history did you come into political awareness?
I can't locate exactly, but let me say that in the year 1990, I was I'd just been admitted to Homa Bay School. And then a few days later, the Foreign Affairs Minister, Robert Ouko, was assassinated. And the whole of the country erupted. And from Migori all the way to Mombasa, the country was in shock. And the uprising across the country hit Homa Bay School so hard. I remember we marched outside the school gates into Homa Bay town to express our displeasure. So as a Form 1 student, 2 weeks in having been admitted in school, this was for me an awakening that has never left me. From that February 1990, I think it has been one big story about how we can be able to end injustices, but actually liberate our country. And that is what I have pursued all of my life.
From the moment you deal with or you encounter the killing of the former Foreign Affairs Minister Robert Ouko, to the political climate that is prevailing at the moment. So there is the repeal of Section 2A that happens later. There is the IPPG that saves the country from going down the drain when it helps President Moi lead the country into 97 elections. And the many political epochs that then takes place afterwards. Would you for a moment walk us through those transitions for you as a Form 1 student to maybe the time now
You
that...
first voted.
Yes, you first voted.
I first voted in 1997 for Madam Charity Kaluki Ngilu because I had the privilege of chairing her campaign committee as a 21-year-old college student. Professor Nyang Nyongo asked me to chair the Charity Ngilu Network, CNN, which was the young people's national mobilization and coordinating organ. But 1997 is really 7 years after being admitted to Homa Bay School. In Homa Bay School, we were very conscious about what was happening across the world, but more importantly, across the country. This is the agitation, the Sabasaba of 1990 found us in Form 1. And then the repeal of Section 2A happens in 1991. 1992, we go for the first multi-party elections in Kenya, which were extremely bloody. And in 1993, the country realized that there was the repeal of Section 2A, but Kenya needed a new democratic constitution. Just like Tanzania has realized that they accepted multi-party politics, but their constitution only allows for one political party to be in power. So they are not a democracy. And that's what the Kenyans discovered very quickly. And then we embarked immediately on the pursuit of a new democratic constitution. In 1995, when I came to college as a first year, is when we published what we called the Model Constitution.
Yes.
The Model Constitution was something revolutionary that many other countries have never attempted. Citizens under LSK, Kenya Human Rights Commission, 4Cs, the Citizens Coalition for Constitutional Change, sat down and drafted a model constitution, which they made available across the country. And this was like a coup. Moi felt like he had been overthrown because the Kenyan constitution was not available anywhere for citizens to see, but the model constitution was available across the country as a civic education tool. So people said, if you want us to follow the constitution, we are going to follow this one, because that one you are telling us to follow, we have never seen it. And so the government was forced to print more copies of the constitution, and Kenyans were comparing it with ours.
Yes.
And so by 1996, we formed what we call the National Convention Planning Committee. And we hosted the first National Convention Assembly in 1997, April. And that was
that
how...
at Ufungamano?
That is what we birthed. That's how we birthed NCEC, the National Convention Executive Council, which was really the movement, we call it the tripartite alliance, between the civil society and the academia, including professionals. Then there was the religious and the political parties in the opposition. We all met in Limuru and developed the strategy of mass action for change. And remember, we already have a draft model constitution. So NCEC became the national movement for a democratic constitution and for democratization. So we actually took over the work of FORD, the
Yes.
Forum for the Restoration of Democracy. And in NCC, we had all the political parties from DP, we had all the political parties in the opposition that time. So in 1997, when the mass action went on and we had more than 23 people killed on Sabasaba,
Yes.
that is 7th of July 1997. By October of that year, Moi had to call ceasefire. And that is how we converged and the IPPG was birthed. The Inter-Parties
Okay.
Parliamentary Group.
Yes.
And the Inter-Parties Parliamentary Group repealed very many, about 8 laws
Yes.
that were really Moi's bedrock,
Yeah.
the backbone of the dictatorship. The Chiefs Act, the Sedition Act, the Public Order Act, all the acts that Moi was using, including the formation of the first multi-party, electoral commission. That's how we formed KEC, the ECK,
Yes.
the
Yeah.
Electoral Commission of Kenya, chaired by Kivoito. And then we went to the elections. And with the representatives, 10 from the opposition, 11 from KANU. And we went to a very bloody 1997 election. And in 1998, we went back to Safari Park to demand for a new constitution.
Yes.
This was not easy to come by, and that's why in 1999, January the 6th,
Yes.
we launched the Fungamano Initiative.
Okay.
The religious leaders formed the Fungamano Initiative at Uhuru Park, and then we started having our meetings in Ufungamano,
Yes.
chaired by the religious leaders now,
Yes.
unlike NCC, which was chaired by civil society leaders. And in 2001, after 2 years,
Yes.
what the religious leaders did is to form what we call the People's Constitutional Commission.
Yes.
All right. So the People's Constitutional Commission started to collect views
Yes.
chaired by the late Dr. Okio Kombaka.
Oh, yes.
Until that time, Raila was already in cooperation with KANU, and they actually got Professor Yashpal Gai from Fiji to come and chair the Constitutional Making Commission.
Yes.
But when Yashpal Gai came here, he said he cannot lead that process without the People's Constitutional Commission.
Yes.
That's how the Okio Kombaka Commission was brought, and they were merged, and Ombaka became the vice chair of Yashpal Gai. And that's how we set up to the Bomas process and held the 2002
Yes.
election,
Yes.
which ended Kanu's rule and ushered in President Mwai Kibaki. If you allow me to then move quickly, is that President Mwai Kibaki
Yes.
was elected by NCC was the initiator.
Yes.
This time I am working at NCC now.
Mtumishi, before I let you move, allow me to ask this question.
Yes.
That we get to 202 now.
Yeah.
And now we have the Bomas process going on.
Yes.
Chaired by Professor
Yashpal Gai.
Yashpal Gai. What is one of your biggest regrets about the fact that the Bomas draft didn't see the light of day as it was concluded by the CKRC Commission in 2004?
Let me tell you that the centralists,
Yes.
that's how we call the centralists of that time, the National Rainbow Coalition, the NK wing.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there was LDP and then there was the
NK.
NK side.
Yeah.
The centralists in NAC,
NAC, yeah.
basically did not want a constitution that was going to democratize the state.
Yes.
They wanted a constitution that kept the resources and power at the center
Yes.
through a presidential system of government.
Yes.
So it was very tokenist.
Yes.
And when we went to Bomas, we were not going to play their game. We went straight to democratizing the state, diffusing power, devolving power,
Yeah.
and ensuring that we have a parliamentary system
Yes.
of government.
Yes.
There is no democracy which has been sustainable anywhere in the world, which was a presidential system of government. Look even what's happening in the United States of America now.
Yes.
That's the problem of presidentialism.
Yes.
So we wanted a parliamentary system which was supported by Professor Yashpal Gai,
Yes.
But the government under Mwai Kibaki did not want that.
Yes.
So they sabotaged the process at Bomas, and they went to Kilifi to develop what we call the
Kilifi
Waki Kilifi draft,
Yes.
which we rejected
Yes.
in the referendum of 2005.
Yes.
In fact, in 2005, when the voting was happening in Parliament,
Yes.
on July 21st, there's a long-drawn case where 8 of us were arrested outside Parliament, and the pictures are still there. So we went on. That's the year I became the executive director of the National Convention Executive Council in 2005.
The NCEC.
The NCEC. And in 2007, then we went to the elections.
Yes.
Without a new constitution, which Kibaki had been elected to facilitate.
Yes.
So we go to the 2007 general election, which became extremely contested and bloody. And you know what happened after that. I regret to this day that we did not succeed to secure the two things that were at the core of the Bomas draft.
Yes.
Number one, a parliamentary system of government,
Yes.
right? That's number one. Number two, the effective devolution of power. That was, in political science, that's the decentralization model that we chose. But you see, even in this current constitution, the devolution is not effective.
Yeah.
And we have a presidential system of government. That is why President Ruto is able to abuse power to this extent
way
that he's
he
able
is,
to abuse
yeah.
power.
Yes.
Because power is not located in parliament. It is located in the presidency. That's the tragedy of a presidential system of government. And so we have a very beautiful constitution, but as Professor Okoth or Ogendo used to say, and even published, it is a situation where we have constitutions without constitutionalism. That's the tragedy of missing the Bomas draft. The Bomas draft was going to effect those two, and they were the core to our agitation for democratizing the state.
It's very interesting now when you paint that picture, because for us who are children around that time, and also history that is taught in schools doesn't really let you know about
Yes, the
all
nuances.
the nuances of what is happening. It's interesting just to hear that Kibaki got power democratically, and then when it came to birthing a new constitution, they were still wanting to hold on to the power that I'm sure it's because it's something that he used to see, right? And now why I'm saying this is because now we are in this day and age today, in 2025, we are seeing a government that seems to want to cling onto power even when the people have said, we can't trust you to lead.
Yeah.
There's something actually the Gen Zs were saying is that you can't kill us and lead us. Now, because Mtumishi, you've been there since let's say from 1990, seeing the protests around Oko's death to the bloody 207, and also he said 1997 was also
Very bloody
chaotic
across the country, yes.
You know, this idea of Article 37 on protest and picketing, in today's age, it just seems to be like, okay, you can peacefully protest, but if we unleash violence, then it's no longer a protest. How can we, what would be your assessment of then and now? Yeah.
And my assessment is actually very experiential. It is what my comrade Wafula Buke said last week, which is very, very profound. And it's something I've been trying to say. Moi, under his dictatorship, never broke a law. Everything Moi did was provided for in the law. Everything William Ruto is doing today is not provided for in the Constitution or in any law. President William Ruto has violated the Constitution 37 times already. Even one is enough to get you out of office, but he has actually violated the Constitution 37 times.
Yes.
That is the radical difference. Now, what is the significance of that important analysis? It is that Moi did not need to kill you. So that's why a lot of student leaders, professors from the university were arrested and were detained without trial.
Yeah.
But they were alive. And they are still alive, some of them.
Yeah.
So William Ruto knows that Article 37 provides for people to gather, to assemble, to express, to picket, to protest. And so if he arrests them and takes them to court, they will not be charged.
Yes.
So what has he turned to? If you arrest them, kill them.
If you arrest them,
They have
kill
no
them.
voice after.
Because we can never win a case in court. So, but let us not miss the historical significance of the mistakes that Kenyans have been doing.
Yes.
The mistakes are that Kenyans only vote for the people who were against change. So this is the only generation, the Gen Zs, are the only generation which has refused to be used. The Mau Mau youth
Yes.
died for land and freedom,
Yes.
but the Serikali was given to the home guards.
Guards.
Right?
Yeah.
So then came the second liberation generation,
Yes.
which saw Akina Raila, the Mukisa Kituis, and
Yeah.
everybody else coming forward. But when it came to 1992, 1997, and then finally 2002,
Yes.
it was Mwai Kibaki, the one who said that multi-party is not, it's impossible. Dreaming about multi-party is like thinking about cutting a mugumo tree using a razor blade.
Razor.
He said that.
Yes, he said it. We should play for you those clips. And it is Mwai Kibaki who became the first president under multi-party politics
Yes. Yes.
after Moi.
Yeah.
Yes.
And when we now fought between 1997 to 2010,
Yes.
for the democratic constitution,
Yes.
actually, which you can extend to 1981, because that's when the really push for a democratic constitution started. Who becomes the first president in 2013? It is Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto, who were against a new democratic constitution.
Yes.
They are the first people
Yes.
who became president. So the tragedy of our country, which is continuing under William Ruto, is that Kenyans trust those who were against change,
Change they
with
advocate
power.
for. Yes.
So then it is like birthing a child and giving it to Mama Wakambo.
Yes. And
What is Mama Wakambo going to do with the baby? Starve the baby and kill it.
Yeah.
So what William Ruto is trying to do now is to show that this constitution is bad.
Yes.
And how does he do that? He says that everything that is in the Bill of Rights, everything about devolution is not the way it should be. So he's actually frustrating the delivery of the promise of the Constitution of Kenya 2010
Yes.
because he was against it, but we trusted him with power.
Yes.
And so here is where we are.
So, Mwalimu, are you saying that in our democratic development, the agents of the status quo,
We have not had democratic development.
what have we had?
My teacher at the university, Professor Maria Nzomo,
Yes.
has actually written a very important article that we have had 35 years where there has been no democratic culture. We have not transited. There is no democratic culture that has happened within those 35 years. In fact, we were more democratic in the 90s and under Moi and under Kibaki than we are today. If you see the sexism, the tribalism, the looting, the misuse, capture and misuse of institutions that is happening today,
Yes.
it convinces you that it has been 35 years of democratic regression
Yes.
more than democratic consolidation. So our democracy has not matured. It has actually been reversed. We still have the same problems we had with rigging of elections in 1992, in 1997. we are going to another incumbency election where it is promised that it is going to be rigged and it is going to be bloody.
Hakuna rais ameenda kwa miaka 5. Kwani huyu ndiye atakuwa wa kwanza? Kama tunafanya nini? Kama tumelala wapi? Kama nini imefanyika? Kwani Kenya ni yenu? Mjue William Ruto aende mahali makawas. Hapo nduma nyigura ile kinyiti.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's why you can see that demonstrators are being killed under cameras.
Yes.
Yeah.
In the full glare
Of the cameras.
of the cameras. So I do not think that there has been democratic progress.
Yes.
No. In fact, if you look at the poverty that there was in Kenya at independence, Kenyans are poorer today than they were then. We have more educated people, but poorer, sick, more deprived citizens than we were 35 years ago.
35 years ago. So my question, before I yield the floor to Madam Speaker, my question was, then there is the administrative edifice that was erected by the colonialists and which we have sustained over and over again. And there have been an attempt to transition from that administrative edifice into a political edifice. So are you saying that people who are frustrating the implementation of the Constitution of Kenya 2010 are clinging onto that administrative edifice?
They have actually reproduced it.
Okay.
They have reproduced that system. Just this year, you saw the Office of the President relaunching the chiefs and giving them APs and giving them all those things.
Yes.
So that devolution becomes a stillbirth.
Yes.
You've seen the delays in transfers of resources. You've seen how counties are captured and muzzled. So there's this political thing that, we are transferring all the functions without resources.
Yes.
And you've seen the rebirth, the relaunch of the chiefs, the provincial system, the provincial administration system.
Yes.
So I completely agree with you that the people, the centralists,
Yes.
those who wanted the presidential system and to sustain power at the center, have actually killed devolution in every way except in name.
Yeah.
Except in
name.
Yeah.
Wow. I want us to just go back to one thing that you said in terms of this generation. It is only until this generation they have refused to be used.
Exactly.
And we've seen from last year's June protests, it seemed organic, it was leaderless, they were saying they were partyless. I'm curious to hear from you, what does this mean now for new political mobilizations towards a certain we want transformation, we want change, we want a just society. What does this mean when we have this generation who are organic, they are leaderless, they are partyless? What does this mean in terms of for mobilization?
Let me say that, and this is particularly to the Honorable Raila Odinga, the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, and the President, William Ruto. I exclude Kindiki Kithure because Kindiki worked in the same office with me under Professor Kibwana at Clarion, the Center for Law Research International. And so he knows these things in great detail. And it's very unfortunate when I see him doing the things he does these days. So I'm speaking to Raila Odinga and President Ruto, that there are 5 things that they need to know about the generation we are dealing with. The first thing is that they are operating under the Constitution of Kenya, 2010. So William Ruto should stop running the country on the template of the Constitution that we retired. That time, it was within the law not to demonstrate. Now, it is actually the Constitution that provides for that right.
Yes.
So that's the first thing. The second thing is that there is technology. Now, we needed to physically move. When I was mobilizing Nairobi and the country in the 90s and in the 2000s, I needed to do these things physically.
Yes.
We are talking about a generation that can mobilize 140,000 young people on X space for 8 hours of a rally.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you think that you are going to engage those young people the way Moi used to engage us with rungus and jeshi la mzee, then my report is that you are extinct already as we are speaking. The third thing is what I call the demographic transformation. When I voted in 1997, so when I voted the first time, the voting population of young people below the age of 35 was only 23%.
Yes.
I don't know. I want that to sink.
Say that again.
That the voting population of young people below the age of 35 in 1997 was only 23%. We are going to an election where the young people who are going to cast their ballot are going to be 64%.
Yes.
What's the meaning of that?
Yes.
That is why we used to be in the KANU youth wing, in the DP youth wing, in the Social Democratic Party, because we were the minority of the voting population.
Yes.
Right now, the youth are going to be the main body of the aeroplane. But Raila Odinga is pushing them to the wings.
Yes.
They can't fit in the wings. If you push them to the wings, the aeroplane will capsize.
Yes.
The scientific and natural thing is that the young people have entered the plane. We have to cede ground and go to the wings.
Yes.
So you cannot continue to govern the country as you governed it 20 years ago. The fourth thing that has to be said is about the economy, the state of the economy. The state of the economy is in tatters.
Yes.
In the president's economic advisor's language, Dr. David Indi, our friend, who we have worked with for many, many decades, he says that there are more than 18 million young people who are unemployed. Do you know why they are unemployed? Because Kibaki increased the universities from 10 to 72.
Yes.
So every year now, the people who are graduating from colleges and universities and TVETs from every constituency is more than 1.2 million. 1.2 million are coming to the labor market. And the industries, we have been de-industrializing. So the unemployment of educated, technologically savvy, exposed young people, you can't sustain them if you are not having a policy dialogue. Those are the four things that young people said last year. So that's the economic factor in the current standoff. The final one is about socialization.
Yes.
Raila Odinga and Ruto grew up in the politics of tribes.
Yes.
The young people are saying, we can't accept that kind of socialization because it's a lie. They know that their country cannot be governed and led through Ukabila. Ukabila there's no policy on agriculture, which is Kikuyu.
Yes.
There is no trade policy which is Luo. Or there is no health policy, which is Kisi.
Yes.
So why are you talking about tribes? They are saying we are tribeless, we are partyless, because we are committed to four things. They said them last year. We want the end of corruption. We want the end of wastage and living large in the opulence. They said they want the constitution to work and the institutions to serve everybody fairly, inclusively. Those are the four things they stated. So I'm saying, Diana, that these five things are the reasons the gentlemen in power, who are less than 1%, should step down and open a conversation that is led by young people. Not like what William Ruto was saying, that, I've invited 40, 170, 150 youth to come to some room. That is not what the young people are saying. Young people want to know that they can open a conversation at Kasarani and the president will come there to listen because he's a servant of the 60% of the population. But he has refused. So, Diana, we are at a place where if these guys don't want to be rendered irrelevant and be buried in the political graves prematurely, they better cut the arrogance, and create a facilitated space where young people are the conveners and are the ones who are asking the old people who have actually destroyed their country for their views. Otherwise, the young people are clear about what needs to be done. It is us who are opposing what they are saying. So you can't expect that 70% of the population, in fact, if you add to 40 years, you are going to have 73% of the voting population of young people below the 40s. So you are talking about the Gen Zs, the millennials. They are going to be 70-something percent of the vote. How can we continue to dictate to them?
Wait. Before we continue, I have a question for you who's watching. Why haven't you subscribed to our podcast? This is a podcast for everything politics and governance that concerns you. So hit the subscribe button. You can also hit the notification bell of our YouTube channel so that you never miss an episode. We're on YouTube, we're on Spotify, and we're on Apple Podcasts. You can find this podcast anywhere you want. And follow us on social media. We're on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and X, formerly Twitter. It doesn't cost you anything. It will take literally a minute. Make sure you also share this video because hii si kitu ya kuwatch peke yako. Share it on your WhatsApp groups and let's stay connected. Haya sasa, let's go on.
Mtumishi, yesterday during the protests, I ran into some young man and asked him, do you regret coming out to the streets? And this young man, a graduate of computer science, told me, I don't regret, because if we don't do this, then we don't have a future. So in that statement, what I deciphered is that the soul of the nation is seriously withering. In your assessment, in the work you do with political parties, with young people, with other democracy actors, what is the state of the soul of this country? What can be done in the short term and in the long term to rescue the soul of the nation?
I'll be very brief on that, Wakili. For the last 11 years, I have been the governance and policy advisor of the religious leaders in Kenya for the last 11 years. On Monday, I was with the Evangelical Alliance of Kenya. Yesterday and on Tuesday, I was with the National Council of Churches of Kenya. The other week, I was with the Catholics. And we will be doing some work with the SUPKEM and the Hindu Council in the coming days. I am very clear what needs to be done to restore and rescue the country from the collapse that is imminent. Most people do not know that Kenya is headed to the failed state status.
Banana Republic.
Because institutions have collapsed and the political leadership is failed. What needs to be done, and urgently so, in the Evangelical Alliance of Kenya and the National Council of Churches of Kenya have said the same thing with the Catholics, is that we need a national restoration convention to be convened. The National Restoration Convention will discuss the problems of our country, which are only two. The illegitimacy of William Ruto's presidency. All these pains you are seeing in the country today are because of what happened last year on June 25th. William Ruto was, his license, social license to operate was taken away.
By the people.
He thought he can repair that by bringing ODM on board. It hasn't worked. So he needs that. We can no longer ask him to resolve a problem which he can't resolve. So there are many ways to do it, but I think the National Restoration Convention, what other people call the Sovereign People's Convention, that's what I call it. The religious are the ones who call it the National Restoration Convention. I call it the Supreme People's Convention. Should meet and discuss all the 7 items on agenda. Number 1 is on the public debt and the economy. Number 2 is the restoration of the rule of law and the constitutionalism. Number 3 is how we get justice for those who have been killed, maimed. That's the
Tortured.
4th. Yes. Number 4 is about restoring institutions of governance, from the judiciary to the police. All our institutions, the confidence level institutions is at its lowest since independence.
Yes.
Especially the police. The confidence in the police now is at 26%. Whereas the confidence in the media and the trust in the media is at 79. Imagine where the police are and where the media is.
Yes.
So we need to discuss Kenya Defense Forces. We need to discuss our National Intelligence Service. We need to discuss the judiciary and how it's operating. We need to discuss Parliament, whether it is still representing the people. That's the 4th very important issue that has to be discussed. Then we need to discuss about our education and our health care.
Very good.
If you are to talk about progressing the country. Then we have to talk about our sovereignty.
Yes.
As a country. Because what President Ruto has done is that he has actually damaged the sovereignty of this country and our standing in the region so extensively.
So badly.
Including working with the agencies like RSF, which have already been indicted and sanctioned by the United Nations Security Council.
Yes.
All right? You've seen all the reports coming from the United Nations.
Yes.
So we have to discuss issues of the welfare of our people, how we lift people out of poverty, the food insecurity, the disasters that we have been talking about. Then we have to discuss corruption as a subject.
Yes.
On its own.
On its own. And then we have to talk about reconciliation and cohesion of our country. So the National Convention is very urgent, and cannot be left to Parliament or the presidency or the church or so and so, the private sector or Gen Zs alone or so and so alone. No, we need to meet urgently.
Yes.
The sooner the better. I have recommended, and Diana is aware of the letter that I wrote to the political party leaders. I suggested that convention should be convened by July the 7th.
That's
Sabasaba this year.
The anniversary of Sabasaba.
The anniversary of Sabasaba.
Wow. I am just thinking, I'm still stuck. I've even written here 26% of people trust the police.
That's right.
That shows the continuing decay of the institution. And
Exactly.
so I'm wondering, how would they be able to govern? But I was in town yesterday during the protests. And at some point I stopped to just see all the chaos that was going on. And I started thinking, I'm like, this cannot always be our reality. We can't keep coming to protest and be met with violence. It can't keep on happening. And then when I go online today, I see a tweet. I'm saying, seriously, guys, how could we better mobilize to be more impactful? So I realize I'm not the only one feeling exhausted and tired and feeling like there has to be more to this. True. So there are many youths out there, Gen Zs, millennials, feeling like we know what we want. We've been shouting it. We are ready to lay our lives for it. But it just seems, it's like we're talking to a brick wall. So how else could we birth this, or rather get this to another? Is there another way out apart from the protests?
And it is the convention.
It's a convention.
It's the convention.
Yes.
There's a lot of power in the convention.
Yeah.
And it needs to be convened by July Sabasaba. And everything should be on the table. Nothing should be excluded from discussion.
Yes.
And I recommended to NCCK and the Evangelical Alliance and the Catholics and the religious leaders that at the convention, we must convene and discuss, give day one to governance and institutions. Day two, we have to discuss the economy, including how we are going to deal with the issues of public debt, etc. By Friday of the convention, we will be saying who is going to implement what, when. There must be a matrix of implementation. Because since 2008 February, you remember the post-election violence and the Kofi Annan talks?
Yeah.
There was what was called the Agenda 4.
Reforms.
Reforms. which have not been implemented. We still have the same land problems, the youth unemployment problem, the ethnicity and the problems, regional, regional marginalization, etc. All the Agenda 4 issues remain undone. And so they must be implemented, because that's the culture we have in this country, where we promise that we will do
something,
but we are not going to do. So the convention must set up what we call the Joint Monitoring and Evaluation Commission. We call it the JOMEC. This idea of JOMEC is an idea that I took to Zimbabwe, and it was adopted. We took it to South Sudan. It was adopted. We took it to Ivory Coast, and it was also adopted. We need our own JOMEC, a multi-agency JOMEC, religious, civil society, the youth, parliament, the Attorney General's office, so that all the things that we agree that we are going to do have to be done. This time we will succeed because there's a Gen Z. Gen Z do not know that they have provided something that Kenya has never had, which is who is the guarantor of reforms. There has never been a guarantor of reforms. Raila has posed as the guarantor of reforms, but he has never delivered. The Gen Z have demonstrated that they are actually now our guarantor, not the military, but Gen Z are the guarantors. If we will not implement by June, by September, by October, what we have agreed is going to be done, we know who is going to enforce the implementation of the agreement.
We know Gen Zs can occupy.
They will occupy for sure, and this time constitutionally and legitimately. Because they will be saying, this is a national convention resolution, you have refused to implement it, then wind down and go home.
Mtumishi, you are saying that the Gen Zs have completely appended the politics of patronage.
No, beyond patronage. Actually, the rotten politics of elite accommodation and the tokenism has been unwritten and appended by the spirit of the Gen Z. And it's because of those 5 factors that I told you. And so that's why I pity President William Ruto and Raila Odinga. They are trying to speak to themselves. I saw Raila Odinga saying that, he regrets that the Adani deal was not implemented. And I pitied him and I said, don't be saying things like that, because it's going to be used every single day until you will regret why you said those kinds of things. So the world called Kenya is no longer the way it is. And so that is, to respond to Diana directly, that is the way forward. The demonstrations cannot be delegitimized or called off. They must remain, but they must be now translated into a legislative and a policy implementation agenda. And it cannot be taken to parliament. It has to go to the convention. So that the people of Kenya are the ones who make a pact, which says these are the things that have to be implemented by October this year, by December this year. We want to know who stole the 6 trillion shillings that was borrowed.
Under Eurobond.
Eurobond and everything else. So we can't live in a country where we know what is rotten and we can't do anything about it. Even in your house, Diana, when your dustbin and the waste basket is full and it's stinking, it is normally removed. So why are we keeping ours and covering with cloth? Cloth doesn't take away the dirt.
That is true. That is true.
Now that you've mentioned debt, permit me to ask, what do you think has stopped the current administration from ever mentioning anything around debt, particularly with the loud calls around odious debt?
In game theory, in political science, people secure their interests. Why would you open the lid,
the Pandora's box,
the Pandora's box, when you are actually a beneficiary of the stolen, borrowed money? Uru's administration is not innocent. Raila is not innocent. I'll tell you that the Parliamentary Budget Committee, the National Assembly Budget Committee, which has 51, is the largest. The members of that committee in 2019 were each given more than 50 million shillings each. What did they do? They actually went and legitimized all the Eurobond theft of more than 150 billion. They said it went to military modernization, and it went to I don't know what, and it went to I don't know what. So all those members are ODM members as well. They know what they did, and they reported to the party leader. So they know what happened with the Eurobond. They know what happened to the borrowed money. So our members of parliament no longer represent national interest. And national interest is what the National Convention has to address.
Yeah. Oh, I want to go back to the point of multi-party democracy because there's still this question on the tribelessness the partylessness of the youth. And apart from the current regime, the ruling party, we also have other parties outside this regime that are, I'm sorry to say this, but seem to be struggling as well to speak the same voice as the youth.
Yeah.
So now that we are saying that, the Gen Zs or the millennials have come and completely changed our politics.
Yeah.
What would you say is the future for political parties in Kenya? How would they better operate to make sure that it is more impactful and maybe even help more youth want to join political parties?
That's right.
Yeah.
Diana, I don't know whether you know that I'm running for the governorship of Nairobi.
Yes.
And there's a syndrome that I spoke about, where those who struggle are normally excluded.
Yes.
That also includes Nairobi, and I'm answering your question on political parties. So like in Nairobi, when we were struggling for the new constitution and evolution, we never saw Kidero. But Kidero became the first governor.
Yeah.
And we know the disaster that happened. Then came Sonko,
Another
the disaster that happened. Now look at Sakaja. I don't know whether it's the worst disaster that has happened for Nairobi, and the judgment is still out there. It will be delivered. Political parties in Kenya are still stuck in the mold of the second liberation.
Yes.
But this country has had first liberation political parties, second liberation political parties. The current political parties are not fashioning themselves as third liberation political parties. And that is the gap they suffer. So the political parties that are going to survive this election are the ones that are going to speak the language of young people, who are going to say that Kenya now needs an economic liberation so that we can be able to meet our social needs, but we must be governed according to the constitution. That is what the third liberation is about.
Yes.
It's an economic liberation,
Yes.
because the first liberation was a political liberation from colonialism. The second was one about returning democratic governance. And the third and final liberation is going to be an economic liberation so that we can have resources to meet our social needs and development. But we must be governed accountably and democratically according to our charter, the Constitution of the Republic of Kenya. If these political parties do not speak the third liberation language, they are going to be wiped out. Because they have gone back to mobilizing ethnic blocks, and others are mobilizing this ethnic bloc. There has now emerged these Nilotes versus Bantus versus Kushites, language which young people have rejected. So you are going to see political parties stranded on the ballot, and they are going to be defeated across the country. This is going to be a very decisive election, and the language the young people are speaking, if they translate it as I know they will, we will liberate our country. And that is how we are going to set out to liberate Africa. So political parties have to fashion up and speak the language of young people, and do what young people are going to surprise people, including who they are going to elect as governors, as president, as MPs, as MCS. And I'm warning political parties not to stick where politics was in 1997, because that is 30 years ago. We are going to be 30 years late. You have better come to where we are in 2025. So that is for me what I find to be very decisive. And it is the only way to rescue our democracy. Otherwise, what's the option? the scenario that is going to prevail is that we are going to have complete state failure. In political science, we have 12 factors and the indicators of state failure or state strength. And we've actually ticked 11 of the 12 boxes.
Yes, of state failure.
11
About
of the
ethnic,
12
we've ticked
boxes.
11 of the 12.
Yes.
Economic decay, institutional ruin, institutional capture and ruin, ethnic differentiation and divisions. We are talking about, militias and gangs. Have you seen what's happening in Nairobi about militias and gangs because of massive unemployment?
Yes.
So you look at the 12 factors and we have ticked the box on 11 out of 12. Of the factors of state failure. And we cannot continue to have this conversation as if things are okay, because they are not.
Yeah.
That is my thinking.
Absolutely. It's very disturbing to hear that we've ticked 11 out of 12 boxes leading to state failure. And I'm now just thinking, and I like what you said, that we cannot go back. It's not business as usual. And it's the same thing I got up this morning thinking after yesterday. I'm like, we can't just wake up and now go back to work as if it's business as usual. But I want to take us back to something very profound that you just mentioned and walked away with it, that you are running for the gubernatorial seat in 2027.
That's right.
Tell us more.
No, let me say this, and it has to be very clear why I am running, because of the Mama wa Campa syndrome,
Yes.
where those of us who birthed the Constitution with blood and sweat, I attended the funerals of all the 23 people who were killed in 1997, even if I was a student. I attended all, from Nyahururu all the way to Emali in Ukambani, from Kisumu to Thika.
They were killed.
They were killed in Nyahururu, others were killed in Thika, Kisumu, Mombasa, but the bulk were killed in Nairobi during the Sabasaba demonstrations of 1997. That's the Sabasaba where Reverend Joya was nearly killed. If it was not for Captain Mbati, who stood there, the police were now going for a bullet to his head. But Captain Mbati stood there and he was badly beaten. And both of them were admitted unconscious at Nairobi Hospital. That was Sabasaba 97. So this thing of us who knew where we were taking Kenya, surrendering Kenya to be governed by those who were against the vision,
Had no idea.
has to stop. And the problem is that most of us look and say, I don't have the money.
Yes.
So we cannot, run because I don't have the money. No. Offer the people of Nairobi the opportunity to liberate Nairobi. Why?
Yes.
Because Kenya was placed by God on the eastern gate of Africa.
Yes.
The eastern gate of Africa, facing 62% of the world in Asia.
Yes.
If you add the African population to Asia, you are talking about 73% of the world.
Yes.
Population.
The future of Kenya and Africa is not in Europe or the United States of America. It's in Asia. If Kenya restores itself, industrializes, and keeps, because the only resource we have as Kenyans is the people, the young people, because of what we call the democratic dividend. And Nairobi particularly, the only resource for Nairobi is the people, 5.8 million people. So we need a governor who is being elected not to govern Nairobi alone,
Yes.
but to liberate Nairobi, the only capital
Yes.
with the UN headquarters in the whole of the Southern Hemisphere.
Yes.
Yeah.
The other is in New York and in Geneva.
Yes.
Nairobi is the only capital with a UN headquarters in the whole of the Southern Hemisphere. And then you elect Sonko to govern that. And then you elect Sakaja to bring goons to the street.
Yes.
So we must put in place a governor with a very clear vision to establish Nairobi as a clean, green city
Yes.
of youth,
Yes.
human rights, and opportunity.
Yes.
Yes.
Youth, human rights, and opportunities. That is what we have to do. And so that we can show people this is what we intended with devolution. Devolution was not so that Raila can use his MCS to be given a monthly quota. So that State House can demand this amount of money. As it is happening right now, as it happened under Sonko, as it happened under Kidero.
Yes.
We must end that by forcing the people of Nairobi. We are not going to beg them.
Yes.
We must force the people of Nairobi to take responsibility for the future of Nairobi. If they are going to wait for Wamunyoro to impose a Kikuyu governor, or wait for Raila to impose Sakaja on them, that's the problem. But we shall have told them that Nairobi is the only capital with a UN headquarters in the Southern Hemisphere. And if we liberate Nairobi, we will liberate Kenya, and that's how we will liberate Africa. Because that's where we were positioned at the eastern gate of Africa.
Mtumishi, now you have hit the bullseye. Because for you to be an effective governor, I mean, it is leadership like yours that the young people are crying for. Because the demonstrations, as we see them, is the cry of a generation that does not have opportunity, that feels it is being left out, that does not see itself having a fair shot at upward social mobility. There was a survey about a month ago that was indicating that Parliament might witness a turnover of up to about 95%, in part because the people feel that Parliament has failed spectacularly. The county assemblies are also not any different. My question is, how therefore do we transition the Gen Z protests into a political action beyond the Supreme Convention to ensure that as we forgive Parliament in 2027, we equally forgive the county assemblies to ensure that we bring in young people who then can be able to act on some of these demands that young people are putting forward.
And not just young people with a better vision.
Exactly.
Kenya.
We have to be very categorical about it. That we are not just calling for young people. We must vet those young people to be sure that we are not electing greedy younger versions of the greedy type that we currently have, because those ones can be more destructive,
vicious
than the low castes. Don't trust young leadership alone, because young leaders who do not have the ethos and the value core can actually be worse than old greedy individuals. So that we have to really underline that we are going to only allow vetted and confirmed, aligned in terms of our value system in Article 10 of the Constitution. Those are the only types of young people who we are going. And I'm the patron. I offered myself in February the 2nd to be the patron for the leadership transformation in Nairobi. That I am going to fundraise for the young people who are going to become MCS, those who are going to run for women rep and senator, and we have even told my brother Sifuna that he should really think about whether he wants to continue being in ODM. Because he's a brilliant guy, but in the party that is against the people. His voice is better serving the country outside, ODM. So we are going to support all these young people who are running for the 17 parliamentary seats. We are going to support those ones who are running for Senate, women rep, MCS in the 85 wards. And we are going to replicate that across the country. And that's where we are identifying who we are going to support for governor out there in Bungoma, out there in Kisii, out there in Kilifi. We cannot leave these greedy criminals to continue controlling the state, which they have criminalized. Which they have criminalized.
I like how you put it, greedy criminals.
Greedy criminals.
I want to yield the floor to Madam Speaker to bring us to a close, but before that, Mtumishi, you are saying that amongst the young people, we must distinguish between Thomas Sankara
and
Blaise Campaure.
Yes.
They could both be young, but one of them is a Sankara, the other one is a Blaise Campaure.
Yes. You are either a revolutionary who is with the people,
Yes.
or you are somebody ni Musaliti, completely Judas Iscariot,
Yes.
who is going for 30 pieces of silver to sell out the people.
Yes.
And who told you that young people are not sellouts? We have them as MCs, as members of parliament.
It's
They
actually the
voted.
most youthful
Look at the
parliament.
chairman.
Yes.
It's very youthful. Look at the chairman of the finance committee in parliament.
Yes.
He's a young man.
Yes.
Born in the 80s.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm told he's born in 1986.
Yes.
Kimani. So you can, and his appetite for money
Yes.
is probably much bigger
Yes.
than Raila Odinga. So you know, there's no guarantee that being young means that you are ethical and that you are value driven. So we have to vet and ensure that young people, because we are committed to ensuring that it's young people who come to office.
Yeah.
That one we are agreed, but only those who are ethically aligned.
Thank you.
I like what
Speaker.
you've said. I like what you said because it's something that we have said here many times as Politically Connected, that we talk about, there's always about youth representation, but we don't want tokenism. Done with that age of patronage, of political patronage, has to have, we're actually thinking of how can we even create a scorecard to help our younger brothers and sisters that by the time they go to the ballot, they can merge, look at the names and see this scorecard. Where does this person rate? So that we know exactly who we are voting for and the expectations we have of these people. Because it can't just be, hey, I'm young, I'm vocal, put me on the ballot.
Yes.
So I like how you've put it. And that brings us to the end of our lovely conversation. Asante sana Mutumishi. Every time we engage with you, it is always a lesson. It is a learning. It is a learning opportunity here. Yes. So you've not just poured into our audiences; you've poured into us, and we are grateful. We are grateful to have you again.
Yes.
Kidi has a last word.
No, we want to give the Mtumishi an opportunity to say his last word to the nation because the nation is watching.
Yes.
Kenya can only be developed by Kenyans. In political economy and comparative government, we know and have proved that there's no country, not a single one, which was built by other people. Every country, China has been built by the Chinese. The America has been built by Americans. France has been built by the French. Every country is built by these people. Kenyans should stop this idea that there is a group of Australians or Germans or Americans who are currently thinking about how to make Kenya better. That's not, even Obama came here and confirmed it at the University of Nairobi, that as senator that time of Illinois, it is not his business to think about how Kenya is going to do next year. He's an American legislator, and that is what is his interest. Let us take responsibility. And we will, because citizenship gives us three things. It gives us rights, but citizenship gives us what we call responsibilities and obligations. And finally, citizenship gives us power and voice. So therefore, we must exercise this power to perform our obligations so that our rights can be fulfilled, not by somebody else, but by ourselves. And Diana, in closing, we are not going to develop a scorecard for Nairobi. We are going to identify these young people and run them.
Okay.
You see, because every time we leave until the ballot, you find that it's an election of 10 out of 10 criminals.
That is
so
true.
Then you have to choose from one of the 10.
A lesser criminal.
Then we say a lesser criminal, lesser evil. Let us avoid that in 2027. What we are saying is that start the work now. In Nairobi, we've already gotten a name of at least 6 MCA candidates in every ward, and we are going to start training them from August, so that we field the people's governor, the people's senator, the people's MCAs, and the people's members of parliament. We are not going to leave it because we know that in that constituency it will be 3 or 7 out of 7 criminals who have money, who have stolen, and now are fielding themselves so that they can go to parliament.
Yeah.
Then we cannot save ourselves. We must go out and identify these people. That's how the team that I'm working with said, you are going to run for Nairobi governorship. You are our people's governor for Nairobi.
Yes. Thank you.
I like that, and thank you for the powerful closing. I mean, Mtumishi Cyprian has said it here at Politically Connected that your citizenship gives you not just power and your voice, it also gives you responsibilities and duties, so that we must push our country forward. So that we can have Cyprian back with us again, kindly subscribe, like, and share this episode. I mean, if you feel empowered, if you feel informed by this episode, share it with a friend, because we can only move forward by conversing about such issues day in, day out. So stay politically connected.